Welcome to Discerning News, where we bring you current stories from a bigger picture perspective. The purpose is to inspire clarity and enthusiasm for your unique journey.
All right. Welcome to another podcast of Discerning News.
Welcome.
Episode
21.
21.
Hey,
Can
that's
you
three
believe that?
sevens.
Wow.
That's 3 sevens.
Unbelievable.
Oh, so what does that mean?
20. Well, I look at it in the cycles, right?
Yep.
So it was cycle of maturity. So we finally getting
Yeah.
mature.
Finally getting there. Finally getting there.
No,
And also,
now we're 21. We can start maturing.
yeah, there you go. And it's also communication. So we're going to be communicating to you. We've got pretty good things to cover.
I think so.
It's kind of a, Tom, you were actually going to pick up on a few bigger picture things to start us off on really the overall energy of some things, right?
Yes. So we work with some energy calendars through the Racehorse College. And it's interesting because this week is Action Energy. And you can find out more about that at the Wayshores website and some links that we have below. But anyways, when action's happening, there's waves of energy that are directed and moving, time to be alert, and accomplishment with fulfillment. And one of the reason I wanted to bring it up was because I'm noticing that out in the environment, all kinds of things are happening. Whether you agree with the progress or not, there's a lot of progress that's being made. A lot of, for example, there's the stock market, there's the trade talks, there's the drug prices, there's the.
So how does
just
all
a
that
number
relate
of
to
stories.
us?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can relate to it. I can tell you that.
How does it relate to you,
I
Teresa?
can tell you that the spiritual concepts that I pick up with all of the goings on this week so far has been, and we spoke about it last podcast a little bit about, I need to be focused on taking the steps, not focused on trying to make the steps. And when I'm in that energy of movement, of action, of getting something going, right? There is this point where I have to start things up. And then once there's some momentum happening, right? There's that support and backing. I need to capitalize on that. But I know I'm in the middle of it. I'm in that middle of that river. I'm in the feeling of involvement, of action, of getting things done by when things come to me easier. Like one thing leads to the other. And that's why I point about saying I need to be focused on taking the steps and not making the steps, because indeed I've noticed that there are a lot of things starting to transpire in the last many days. It's been pretty interesting, at least for me in my life. And the more I try to analyze and dissect the inspiration that I get, rather than, right, got something, now let me do something with it. And the step will provide itself. It's like that whole thing we talk about with the universe provides and all that kind of stuff. It's true as long as I'm in that rhythm. When I'm outside the rhythm and I'm trying to analyze and dissect everything, it's like I'm trying to make the step happen rather than just take the step that comes to me. And that's just like, it could be just an idea. Now, I know people will say, well, that's what happens anyway, right? That's making the step. I have an idea to do something. The distinction is, for me, is that I'm allowing it to come to me and put into that flow of my direction. I'm allowing it to happen rather than me trying to force it to happen. And then I'm more naturally in my timing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's funny because this week I've been trying to talk to Tom a lot about being in the now, because he's been waiting for some
News on a business opportunity.
news on business opportunity. And I have been very much in about now. Like there's no past, there's no future. Today is all that I have, is this moment in time. And it's interesting because I was working with a group last night and doing some healing work, and the person we were working with talked a lot about, like, do you look at life as a person as, like it's a Groundhog Day, like it's always the same, it's the same, it's the same, or do we look at it like this moment is never the same? Like everything changes around me, everything changes within me and what I'm doing. And so being in the now is so crucial. So I completely relate to that.
Yeah.
Agree, Tom?
Being in the now is important. I've been focusing on how when I move from one thing to another, it's easy, that
Yes.
it doesn't have to be hard. What makes it hard is I put pressure on myself to do it faster or to be more successful. And I've been noticing the thoughts that I have around that are old habits, even when I'm doing something I really enjoy, because we've had great weather. I've had a number of tasks to do to get ready to go away this weekend, some projects, and I enjoy the projects that I work on. But I notice that if there's pressure, if I add pressure to it, it isn't fun anymore.
Right.
And even in little things like trying to carry too much at one time, ways that, we put pressure on ourselves.
I have a phrase I'd love to hear you all share on it, because it's directly related to all of the many goings on that's happening this week in the news and in the environment. And as a little quick note to that, we've been talking about this for ages. We've been talking about that this year and slipstream and the whole spiritual year that we're in and moving toward. It's like this is happening, and it's happening as a necessary thing. It's not happening because of one person or the one group or something. This is one of those necessary things that happens every age, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I've heard people even say that 2025 will be a year we will never forget.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Let's not forget it.
Okay.
But the term I was
There's a lot of those years that go by.
We were talking about it in the green room a little bit. Rebelling against success is that when things are brought to me, the opportunities are brought to me, I'll rebel against it if it's not exactly in my picture or the way I want it to happen or the way I thought it should happen. And yet the success is right at hand. Heaven is at hand. And I'll rebel against the success.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed that in that also that, the spiritual kind of pitfall of like being envious or jealous of somebody else's success and what they've magnetized to themselves. And I thought, one of the reasons we talk about spiritual awareness is to kind of uplift people to an idea or becoming more aware that they can attract the same success to themselves.
Yes.
And it's not as hard as they think. But if they get sidetracked with all this, making it harder, it's a little harder to get there. It does become harder. One of the things that I wanted to point out was that, as we had said in the green room, that there's a lot of action, a lot of energy went into a lot of projects on a lot of fronts within the government. And this is, we've all been talking about these, projects and all the tariffs and the trade talks and the drug prices and just really hitting, all kinds of peace talks as well, like just hitting all these different areas. And it's amazing to me because there's a momentum now.
Yeah.
And the way I'm going to put this is it's like whether you agree with the momentum or the projects that were chosen to work on or not, it's really something to see how they're starting to just this last week, bang, 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 things falling into place and beginning to move again. So, I want that for me, right? And what strikes me is that if I put that energy in and I'm consistent, follow my feelings as to that next step, which I relate to that because I've been doing projects around the house where, and some of the things I work with is like, okay, well, what do I do next? And then boop, a little idea comes to me. And then I go, okay, well, I'll just get started with that because I don't know what I'm going to do after that. And then, the next idea comes to me. And before you know it, I've got it organized and I'm moving it forward.
Yeah, I guess the part that I want to share about success and that I've noticed for myself is that it's very stimulating to a lot of people, depending upon where they're at energetically. And I noticed for myself that the more that I've been in the now, which I could come back to, And the more that I'm able to stay relaxed with where everyone else is at in this moment, the more that my energy and the energy that I'm wanting to bring forth into everything I do, which is a positive energy and enthusiasm and staying relaxed, it really helps the situation. Because obviously at work, there's a lot of different energies coming in and out that come through the door every day and that come in to work next to me and beside me, and it's wonderful to see and to be a force that that can be of good support people
Yes.
and where they're at, no matter where they're at, because some people are in situations that maybe aren't the most uplifting or the most supportive, but
Yeah.
Challenging.
and when they're in people in situations like that, they can't relate to success as much as say maybe I could, because I feel no matter what I'm doing, I'm successful.
Right.
I could be at home cleaning the toilets and I'm successful at doing that. I'm going to work and doing invoices for, my landscape architect firm. I'm successful at doing that. So I have that backing and that feeling and that awareness that some people don't have. And so being able to flow with whatever energy and whatever, awareness you have around the situation you're at to accept that success and that abundance is really key.
Well, I this is a really good conversation.
Yeah.
There's a lot here. There's about a mountain of wisdom here to
Accepting success and abundance.
That's it. I mean,
Accepting.
the other thing that, and I'm writing it down as you were saying, it's like when I am in my niche or when I'm feeling good, the world is good. But if I'm not feeling good, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling heavy, I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling angry, depressed, whatever the thing, the world is bad. It's that reflection. I find what I'm looking for. I find what I'm focused on. And so that whole thing of, hey, I don't need to feel that, or I don't need to react to that. I can feel how I want to feel. I can tune into my true feelings of what I need and want. And then it's so much easier to find the solutions and claim them. And my idea or my ideology can take a sidestep. There's you probably heard this before, but there's we have the we have this in the notes down there below. There's a lecture that you can get involved in, and it talks about the balance of thought and feeling. And the intellect is that analyzing and dissecting part, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the feeling is part of my true nature. It's how I truly feel inside, not the emotions. That's something else. How I truly feel inside. And when I need inspiration, or when inspiration's coming to me, there was this drawing once of saying, I need to take my intellect and slide it away just for a minute, let that inspiration come directly into my feeling, and then bring the intellect back. In other words, don't overanalyze and dissect my inspirations. Don't analyze and dissect success. Rather than, I've got something here. Now, how can I organize it and move forward? Rather than trying to, when the inspiration's there, well, does that work? Or, who sent that? And there's all this extra stuff I start coloring the message. So part of the secret to being not only abundant, but having fun and feeling good is making sure I don't analyze and dissect spirit's message. It's just being in the space that I'm here now, like you're saying, being present and working with something, moving from one step to another. Otherwise, I'm going to have one day up and one day down. This way a little bit here, this way a little bit there, because I'm not in my niche. I'm not in the space of what I'm about. I'm stuck in all this big head trip, right? So the moral of the story is, if I get jealous of somebody's success, or if I'm unhappy that someone else is happy, I'm way off my pivot point. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Because I'm out there has become more important than what's here. This is the most important thing. I want to be successful, and it's my life to do it. Am I suddenly comparing my success to someone else? Oh, I don't sit on a gold toilet, or I don't sit on, some big mountain of cash
You
or
don't fly
something.
charter jets.
Yeah,
From a
whatever,
place to another.
it's like, that's my success is perfect for me. And until I get over that competition game, I'm always going to have one day up and one day down, one day up and one day down, until I remove that competition out of there.
Yeah, well, it's also being able to relate to that,
Exactly.
because a lot of people can't relate to that, depending upon where they're at, right? I mean, like most people, I would say, I mean, like if I check in, it's like 70% of the people on the planet cannot relate to being successful, other people being successful, and not being jealous, not being envious, not being, why is that person that? And so we go to this week where there's like Trump in this airplane. Like, who goes to Saudi Arabia and is given
Qatar is the ones.
Qatar,
Yeah.
so Qatar, and is given an airplane, and then so people that can't relate to that are going off the rails. Well, how can you take an airplane? What's that about? And yada
Well,
yada.
of course, it would be given to the United States, to the Department of Defense.
Yeah, but it's that success.
How he attracts this, because he can't.
Right.
Boeing, who has a contract to build the new Air Force One, can't build it for, I think, 2029 or 2030 or something like that. The point is they just can't deliver, and they've been working on it for years and years.
But it's that success.
Yeah.
That people can't relate to that success and someone being able to go and actually get abundance and bring it back. It's like, I just can't relate to it.
I think that's what I mean. And the energy, like the example is, there's so much momentum and movement and just straight ahead movement, following feelings that people love leadership, and no matter what, they're going to be magnetized towards it, even if it doesn't fit. What was striking me is like, sometimes when I'm successful, I've caught myself, well, that's not how I wanted to be successful. It didn't fit this intellectual roadmap that I had, put together for myself. And so this is where my sensitivity and being open-minded to spirit, I'm finding more and more and getting reminded, that's really the big key, is that allow myself to follow that, the doing my work is doing what I love, is one of my big aha moments again recently. And if I go from what I love and the way that I'd like to do it, and I move with that, like, well, it's easy. It's just happy and free. It's moving from, I am an organized person. I can do a lot, or I can find other people who can do things that are good at it, and all I have to do is communicate. So, but that's the magnetism, is that, love. And often, the great spiritual way showers that we get attracted to, one of the reasons that they're so attractive is they have a lot of self-love. They respect themselves and they love themselves and accept themselves. And we magnetically, like, we all want to feel that way. So we get drawn to that energy. So by doing that, I'm providing a service. If I'm doing what I love, and that emanates out, and then allow people to pay me for it. So this is where sometimes, if we have religious concepts about doing spiritual work, I've noticed that, well, you're not supposed to get paid for that. We'll allow the person you're being of service to, and in a way, your spiritual apprentice, to feel good about themselves, that they paid for it, that they feel fulfilled, that they took those steps, that they are,
they put their energy into it.
They put their energy into it. So anyway, those are some of the things that, strike me. And I guess what there is a lot of rebellion towards, and people instinctively realize, is that when you do live this life of one day up and another down, and the comparison, and we watch a show about selling high quality, high top shelf real estate, and I get a kick out of it because I've been in executive recruitment, and it's very similar. They think they've made a sale, and then the people say, no, we don't want it. And, you can see the emotions on their face. I can see the emotions, like the ups and downs they go through, hoping they had a deal, because they're big payoffs, so they really, there's even more, it's not like, there's an energy there, right? It's a big payoff. So it's a big win or lose thing. And it's great because this group that we watch, they're very successful, family, and they attract a lot of success. And they decided to operate, and they operate with class at that level, and so they can operate there. But they still go through this ups and downs, and I often think like, well, okay, is it worth it? I mean, is it worth it for the emotional up, the thrill, the electricity of it?
Right.
And I think like sometimes in pro athletes and race car drivers, and it's like when they win, the energy is, the electricity is so high, but boy, when they lose, it's like the worst thing. If they didn't win, it was horrible. So it must be so much fun for them to feel the electricity of the odd time that they occasionally win, that they keep doing it for that rush. And then I think spiritually, if I move beyond that, I'm moving into fulfillment and what I love, and I start to evaluate based on that. What do you have to say about that, Teresa? Doing what we love.
Okay.
If I have to, I guess I'll be successful. All right. Well, why don't we take a quick break, and we'll get into the next one.
We exist in a highly intellectual world, and often the feeling part where your inner wisdom lies gets left out. There's a way to feel more in balance with all parts of yourself. This way is by accessing a spiritual bigger picture of who you are as a soul. Check out the link in the show notes to access a free video series created by the Wayshowers College to support your journey and moving through this game of life. Your intellect and feeling parts will love it.
Okay, so what's next? What do we have going on?
Well, in continuing on with, I think you mentioned about the different trade talks and all the goings on. It's like this one thing after another that's been happening this week. I wanted to talk a little bit about the energy of freedom. And it's like when things are presented to me, and we were just doing this just before the break, we were talking about that I can forget, and this is your point, I can forget that not everybody, some people are afraid of freedom. They're afraid of being free and happy and successful. And it sounds silly, right? It sounds silly. Like, well, I'm not afraid of success. I'm not afraid of being happy. But when I'm exposed to, am I going to step forward and let this go, whatever this challenge I was having, this idea or this anger or this fear or this depression, letting go of that and just continuing on with something that I know is in my heart, that I like being happy. There's fear there. This is like this push-pull. And that's what I mean by some people are afraid of freedom, that have that much openness, to have that much opportunity, that I can say whatever I want to say, especially if I know how to share it in a way that people can understand it, right? It's not what I do, it's how I do it. So being able to have the freedom when it starts coming to me, to be able to accept that freedom, to be able to do something with it rather than rejecting it. This is the real thing that you were bringing up. Not everybody relates to that.
Yeah, I have a good story about that, actually.
All right, go on.
Yeah, so I have a story about someone I was speaking to this week about who has gone through some cancer. Okay. And went the typical route, had it taken out, had a bit of radiation, and is now on medication for years to stop the growth of any other cancers to come.
Right.
And so I was just mentioning how I know some people that have done it more holistically, gone through the medical but done some holistic, aspects of it. And
someone who's been successful at that.
Very successful. Yeah. Absolutely. And,
that person.
And so, and this person, I could feel it. They were very fearful about even trying that. Now, whether or not, that would even work or not towards, what they're, even the possibility of having cancer, again, they were very scared still about that possibility. And so what comes to mind is the freedom that maybe I could try something different, or or go a different path if something, presented itself again. But there was like, nope. I mean, literally, this person said, I trust science.
Yes.
And that was it. So I recognize, okay, and that's fine. But there's always, like you're saying, kind of room to just share things. And I think that also for myself, I've noticed over time, it's, I might sprinkle a little something they've never maybe heard before, or something that they are not even aware of. But it's that freedom to open up to go, oh, well, let me maybe think about an opportunity like that if something were to come about.
Well, it's interesting because RFK Jr. has spoken in front of Congress, and he's talked about starting to restrict all the pharmaceutical advertisements on television because there's just so many. And that's something, when I lived in Australia, when I came here on business, I was shocked at like all the pharmaceutical ads, and here's this thing and some fancy name, and then there was like all these side effects that they had to list as well,
And death.
and it was just so bizarre, and I thought, I don't want to be reminded of it. Like, I mean, let the doctor tell me if there's something I need. But of course, they're trying to get you to go to your doctor and request certain medications. That was, the whole idea of it. So, and then it turns out that a lot of children's vaccines, this has been in the news, they weren't tested like previous vaccines had been.
Yeah.
And I just, I wasn't sure about that, but somebody testified. It wasn't RFK Jr., but it was, somebody that works in that area says, no, they actually hadn't been through the trials that they're supposed to take that sort of stuff through, or they used to. And I thought, my goodness, like we can be so gullible, in certain areas, but what is it? It's like a fear.
Yeah.
It's a fear of leaving my intellect. And it's a fear of trusting myself. It's a fear of trusting myself.
A fear of failure.
I might die.
Okay.
I might die, or this treatment won't not work, or, oh, if I take that, I might lose my money, or this relationship may fall apart if I say that to this person. It's this is the whole thing about out there versus in here. And that's what I meant by the freedom. It's when we're sitting here in this nice comfy place and you're listening to this and we're sharing here and this is so wonderful, and then I get faced with life when it comes up, it's a whole nother matter. Like, woo, I'm getting stimulated. I'm a little bit afraid in this situation. What if it goes sideways? And, all this kind of thing. But at the end, all I've got is what I need to do in my life. And if I don't have that as my priority, I'm not saying I don't have other priorities. I do. But if I don't have as that my top priority, then I have nothing to really base my energy in life on. I am going to run from one fear to another fear, to another fear, to another fear, because I'm caught up in that game. Instead of saying, this is what I want, now I'm feeling a little anxiety as I go forward, but all of a sudden it clears up because I get involved in what I've come to do, or I get involved in my decisions that I made. Even if I do fail, they lead me to something greater because I'm involved in what I choose. I'm involved in what I need. And that is different than making a decision based on what someone else needs or someone else wants. That is a very, very different, I'll use the term vibration or frequency. For those who understand that is a different vibe than me making a decision based on what I truly need and want and what I've come to do. When I make those decisions and then say, okay, this is my decision. Now, how do I get there? How do I do it? That's different. Rather than, oh God, I'll do this. And, oh no, what about the house sale? And, oh my gosh, no, the decision is this family is going to be abundant and we're going to use this tool of selling houses to help us get there.
Yeah.
That's energy in a different way than saying, I got to have the thing to make me happy.
Yeah. And I've often found that, that if I pivot from, if I get the money, then I can do
Right.
my work,
Right.
or what really fulfills me. And that's what I was realizing. I was checking in with my guidance and realizing that I was kind of forgetting that, go with what I love first and accept the support from others around. I mean, one of the ahas I've had recently as I've been regrouping is I look at, I play the drums, and I love to listen to famous drummers and famous musicians and listen to their stories. And there's some great YouTube videos that are available on that. And one of the things that strikes me is, boy, they were all in the right place at the right time. And what I mean by that, and I notice this with athletes as well, is that to young athletes that end up making it into the pros, as I've learned the stories and I've watched people make it to the pros and the big leagues and so forth, they had, like, their parents backed them. They were around certain people that knew that game. They, had talent, but it was, all the conditions were right for them to move forward. And so, one can look at that and say, well, I'm so jealous, that Steve Gadd, he's a great drummer, that, he got to play and he got to do this, and my parents never backed me, and they were just, I'm a victim, kind of a thing. Instead, I've replaced that with, so what are the advantages I was raised with, or what was in my environment, right, and where have been my interests and my loves in what I want to do? And maybe some of those things that I'm really interested in, really love, I've probably done that before, maybe in another lifetime, so, or looking at, what my guidance did in their last incarnation, what were some of their occupations and hobbies, and why did I choose that team? Why did I contract with them? It's funny, I don't have any pro drummers in the lineup or pro musicians. I have different expertise: artistic, spiritual, counseling, nurturing, and running, working with people, and like strengths, which I know that I have, but I've got this team that I chose for that. So how can I leverage that perfect timing and perfect situation? And, I can look at my background and say, well, I was raised in a certain environment. I had certain advantages. I had certain disadvantages. I had certain challenges. And so why was I faced with, and I continually get faced with, certain challenges coming up? It must be perfect for what I came to do. So that's where if I look in my head and I go, yes, but I'm this age and I don't have that much yet, and I haven't retired at 50, and, all those things that you can compare yourself, or I've compared myself. So does that sound like I've been listening to what you've been saying, Teresa?
Maybe.
Well, I was actually going to ask you, Teresa, because you have that innate energy of enthusiasm. It comes out of you, and
Except for when it doesn't.
Oh, even
Like
when it doesn't, she's enthusiastic about it.
Like when I'm a little impatient, like, okay, let's get this going.
But the of how, when someone's around who is positive and is just the mature, but is solid, and they inspire someone else to start moving up. Like, I know you've seen that, where you've inspired people, and what that feels like, or what that experience is like in those situations.
Yeah, well, I would say that for myself, I've really had to learn how to stay relaxed with others as they grow. I mean, that's really the key. And that's the key, I think, for everyone working in this realm, because we're all in different places. And so for myself, I mean, I realized looking back at my life that I came in with this energy. Like, we talk about that a lot. We all have a spiritual thrust. Mine's the fall through of my heart's desires. Tom's is
to be happy and free.
And Tiger's is
rallying the forces.
So we all have this energy around us, and that's came in with us. And so looking back at my life, even the times when I may have said there were, some challenging moments, I've always had this enthusiasm, this following through of my heart's desires. And so, I remember as a kid, my mom would be like, oh, Teresa's so headstrong and she knows what whoa, going this way. I'm like, well, yeah, hell yeah, I am. And so that can be, some people can look at it like a blessing or a curse, depending upon what, where you're at energetically. But to be able to access the energy I have within me and to inspire others when I'm relaxed and when I trust where I'm at, because it all begins with us, right? Like if I'm out of balance and I'm a, crazy, what I said a lot, a hot energetic mess, which I really wasn't, but I was, because I didn't have my energy together and like I do now, then I can be, it cannot be as inspiring as when I really am able to be in my pivot and be in my timing and be in my energy to inspire others.
Yeah. And to just kind of put a bow on that for me is looking back in my life and discerning why I chose what I chose. And I didn't choose things because of all the crap that can happen. I chose things because of the lessons that are necessary for me to move forward. And until I come to that honest and sincere place inside myself, I'm always going to be flirting with a level of success and touch it, but never really grasp it and move toward it and in it, because I'm not fully embracing all of me. I'm rejecting part of me. And all my bad experiences, whatever that is, my supposable bad experiences and the stuff that has happened to me, and everybody's had it. I'm in this larger club. It's all now degrees. This one's worse than that one, right? I get a gold star because I got beat up more than the other guy or gal. It all becomes this game after a while. It's like we're all in the same boat where we've had these forms of trauma or abuse, and I'm not belittling it at all, right? Like, you're going through it. It's some serious stuff. But there is this magic point where I have to come in my sincerity and growth, is I have to say, what was in that for me? What am I getting? Where am I moving with this? Because I didn't choose things for the terrible situations per se. I chose things in my life because of what I gained from it. What am I going to take forward in my evolution? And that one nugget, I'm telling you, that one nugget for someone who comes here and listens to this would propel their whole life to a new perspective. Now, I'm not saying accept all the junk that has happened in my life per se. I'm saying that I can look on it in that soul perspective, in other words, a higher perspective, and say, why is that there? Right? Why does certain habits in my life persist? Why does certain things happen? Because if it keeps happening more than once, then it's probably something I need to take a look at. Right? It's that old story. If I hit my head and then the next time I go through that I duck, then I'm probably all right. But if I hit my head, oh man, and then I walk the next day and I hit my head on the same thing, and then I walk the next day, I hit my head the third time, maybe I should look at that. There might be something there for me. So bottom line is, if I'm willing to take that sincere look at my life and say, why did I choose these certain things? From that detached perspective, all of a sudden, this magic will come. This magic, like, oh, well, actually, I needed that so I could do this. And I needed this so that I could go do that. I needed to have that relationship so that this one unfolded this way. So it's like this series of steps. And that's what I was referring earlier about. I don't need to be so much focused on making the steps. I really need to be focused on taking them.
I was going to say too, what struck me as you were sharing was just being involved, because, I may go through something or attempt to be successful at something, say a business opportunity or something, and it doesn't quite work out. And then you go, oh, well, what did I get out of that? Well, I did get this insight or two that I would not have gotten if I didn't go through an awareness. So sometimes it's just an awareness about myself or the situation that I'm in or what I offer that was worth being involved in that scenario. But if I go down the path of, oh, well, somebody else got it, I didn't get it, comparing, that, and how come they always get mine, I don't, and then I lose that. I lose the little insight that I needed to help me with my direction.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break and come back for our inspirational story. Ready for that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
As the Earth's crust shifts and changes, our lives do the same. One way to maneuver through the small and large moments that shake us to the core is by reviving your connection to spirit, gathering ways to cleanse your energy field, embracing spiritual awarenesses to give you a bigger picture, and knowing that you are not alone on your journey can be a great support. The Soulquake Survival Guidebook is a great companion to meet you where you're at and support reviving your connection to spirit in earth-shaking times. Get your copy today through Amazon Worldwide in paperback, ebook, or in audio, and begin embracing more clarity, inner peace, and enthusiasm for your life and what you've come to do.
All right. So this is a little different this week for inspiration because I looked through, I looked through my little search and I'm like, ooh, intriguing. So, and you guys both don't know what this one's
This
about.
is a surprise.
So I saw this big piece of ice and I said, oh, nice. It looks cold there. So this week I found a report on Antarctica of all places. Antarctica gained 200 billion tons of ice during a recent 2-year period. Researchers at Tongji University reported that East Antarctica's Wilkes Land and Queen Mary Land region recorded 108 gigatons of average ice sheet mass gained per year from 2021 to 2023. So 1 gigaton equals 1 billion tons, and 108 gigatons is the equivalent weight of 1.5 million American aircraft carriers.
Jeez.
So that's pretty big. So this was during a period where we had a lot of high temperatures on the planet. So I was inspired by this because there's often a lot of dread and gloom and doom and we're going under. It even said too that it helped actually take some of the pressure off the oceans, and the oceans actually went down some.
Right.
So what do you guys think about that?
It's great when you get the facts and, the science and follow those trends, and rather than be, scared about something that is what strikes me about that is it's so much bigger than I can even really grasp with my intellect, gigatons and those numbers that you read out. Like, that's just, I don't really relate to it. I just know it's huge, and that's something that I bring that up because more and more I realize the planet and land masses and the population and the markets are a lot bigger than I really grasp, and so that's a good thing because I'm a part of a huge system. There's a security in that, maybe the strength in numbers, but there is a sense of it's, my little bit, I can only ruin it so much, because it's a big place.
That's an amazing story. I guess the phrase that comes to me with that is success wants to happen. The abundance wants to happen. If I'm putting it into a feeling state or a vibration state, energy wants to travel into form, through form, and out of form. It wants to move. As a matter of fact, if I try to hold back my energy, I will suffer. So to me, when I hear that, it's that it is so much bigger, right? And I am just a little speck, and I have such a small time here, honestly. I mean, one life, my life is the blinking of an eye in the time span of eternity type thing. And I just was also tuning into It's like, let me just focus on helping and keeping my backyard clean. And then I can help my neighbor do that. And then I can help my community do that. And then I can help it's like now I have experience and I can help people. But if I play the fear game, right, in order for me to move people based on fear, right? Try to move people based on fear, there has to be division. I must divide people. I must make that one a black hat and that one a white hat. That is to say, I must make that evil and that good. That is the only way to really move people by fear. Now, sadly, we've been trained to do that over a long, long, long time, right? And that's a big mover, fear.
We're programmed to move with fear.
Yeah, it's and so we're all outgrowing that. That is something to outgrow here. But I need to always remember, if I'm being moved by fear rather than freedom, there's going to be a high price to pay at the end of that. And so rather than just taking the inspiration, like, oh, wow, this is great, and let me move forward, and what's the next thing? It's always about this energy that wants to keep me looking out there. That's probably the theme. If we were going to regroup this seems to me that a lot of this energy that we've been talking about, all the goings on this week, there is this tendency to not claim the success, even if it's the success that the other person is having, and it's not the way I would do it. It's like not absorbing the success and continuing to move forward in my life. It's rejecting it. And so that's that energy of, am I moved by freedom or am I moved by fear? And there's a higher price if I moved by fear, even though I'm trained to do it, even though I know if I move by freedom, it's easier, there's less suffering. I'm trained to do it over here. So the idea that this is starting to happen, it's very interesting to me. It's not something I'm shocked by. It is something, obviously, there is a reality that things melt and then they freeze and things melt. And that's why I was bringing up that point earlier about, I'm such a tiny little piece here, that this planet's going to be here long after I'm gone, kind of thing. And I don't want to pollute it. I want to have a nice environment. I do believe myself to be, enjoy the environment and take care of it. But at the same time, I need to make sure that I'm not creating fear in what I do. And so I'm always sensitive. My closing on this is, I'm very sensitive, and I've learned to retrain myself that it doesn't matter whether it's some kind of a preacher or some kind of politician or somebody on the street trying to move me by fear. I'm a lot more tuned to that, because now it's like, whoa. Yeah. Just give me the facts.
There's a clue there when they're trying to move me by fear. What's going on?
Yeah, if you're
that's
not,
with a lot of things.
Exactly. And if you're not willing to inspire me with facts and aspirations, then already I'm starting to, something doesn't smell right there, But if you come to me and come with inspiration and aspirations and say, hey, here's the facts, that's different feeling. That's a different vibe.
Facts and aspirations. I love it.
Facts and aspirations. So yeah, I was really inspired by first the picture, which is, of a big, iceberg. And it just,
you like stuff like that.
I
big
do.
Earth stuff and volcanoes and the energy of the planet.
Power.
Yeah, power. And I think also for myself, it's like
tornadoes.
There's, I know tornadoes, right? Well, there's always so much about the change going on around us. And so that change also mimics what was going on within us. So it makes me feel like, I'm strong within. My core is strong. My foundation's strong. And then sometimes it might be, changing form. It might be a volcano, or it might be an earthquake. It might be, And the earth just mimics what we're all going through. So as we talk about action energy this week, and we talked about, the plane that Trump's off doing deals with people, trade talks, different drug prices, all the
Stock
things that
market going way up.
up, like, all these things. And so really being able to find those inspirational moments within all of the things that are going on, and also recognizing the spiritual perspective, which is what we're about. It really, it makes me feel good and feel successful and feel free, and that freedom about why I'm here at this moment in time.
Yeah. And I think, thank you for bringing that up. It's a good story. I think for my wrap up on this, the thing that's really stands out to me is that whether things around me are up or whether things around me are down, I am here to move forward.
Oh, I love that.
And if I am basing my happiness on, oh, right, we got this deal, or, there's this, that, and the other, all right, or, oh, that son of a gun did that, and now we're dealing with this. Doesn't matter which way I'm looking at it. If my happiness is based on something out there, instead of I'm moving forward one way or another, I'm going to be in this world, but I'm not of it, right? I'm just passing through. If I don't have that clear, I am going to have only a certain level of freedom and only a certain level of success, and it will eat at me. It will eat at me because I know that's not my potential. My potential is to have more of that, is to have more success. And I won't feel like I'm making the grade. I won't feel like I'm accessing my potential. But the moment I switch it is I say, I'm moving forward, whether things are up or whether they're down. It's just about how creative I am and what I'm going to do next. To me, that's the highlight of the whole week. And not letting other people's fears dictate to me, not letting my old habit patterns dictate what I want to move forward, and then keep claiming that enthusiasm. Keep claiming that enthusiasm for what I want to do, where I am. And when I feel myself not in it, say, no, I'm going to change that.
What do you think is the commonality this week, Tom?
Well, I remember that phrase, emotional thrills, this thrills and chills, and that it's so, it's abundant out there to watch people go through the emotional thrills, the ups and the downs, and then the ups and the downs, like we were talking about high performers and so forth. But I know that I'm bored with that, that in my soul is bored with that. I can look at certain situations and say, I'm ready to move forward, and I want to do it from a relaxed feeling of being happy and free. And if I'm moving with that energy, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, I wrote down, success happens no matter what I do.
Yeah.
Irregardless, the polar caps are going to melt or they're going to grow back. The politicians are going to be, happy and free, or they're going to be binding and confining on people, and people are going to be happy or sad. So no matter what goes on, that's just kind of what I'm feeling from this week.
It's all part of the game.
It's all part of the game. So how about that? Good episode, huh?
Rock and roll.
Great episode.
Now, next week we're talking about some our past military, and we're going to go to the FBI
service,
FBI, Navy, and the Air Force next week, and give a little insights spiritually around Memorial Day.
Spiritual perspective. Yeah.
So that was a great episode, guys.
I thought so too.
Cheers, and thank you all for listening and watching out there. We appreciate you very much. And just remember that in the midst of all that you hear going on in the world, there's a spiritual perspective in there, and it's up for you to figure out what it is so you can gain more inner freedom and trust what you pick up. See you soon. To keep the enthusiasm going, please like, subscribe, or comment below. We would love to hear from you.